All right, so I'm on my way walking to do some business, and I figure now's a chance to make this video about Esther and you or me or somebody. You notice I'm on Key Road. There goes a car or something, and yeah. So the book name is Esther, and we find that interestingly enough, it's named after the main heroine in the story, the history that's recorded there. But her name's actually not Esther, it's actually Hadassah. And you might wonder, well, what do you mean? It's Esther, we know that. But if we read carefully, Esther chapter 2 verse 7, just follow along here. And Mordecai had brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother. The young woman was lovely and beautiful. When her father and mother died, Mordecai took her as his own daughter. So Mordecai, her cousin, likely older, brought up Hadassah, that is Esther. Esther was a Babylonian name, and it's lots of speculation why exactly that is that way, but they were hiding their ethnicity, at least when she was taken later into the harem of King Ahasuerus. And so it's interesting to find her name is different than what we remember. Howdy. The author was most likely a Jew who was very familiar with the royal Persian court, and the time the book was written, the events in the book of Esther occurs between 483 BC and 473 BC, during the first half of a king that we see in the book of Esther, known as Ahasuerus. And Ahasuerus, when you translate into Greek, is Xerxes, and we know that king from many other historical sources other than just the Bible. The book was obviously not written until the events had happened already, so it was written no earlier than 470 BC and probably no later than 424 BC during the reign of Xerxes' son, Artaxerxes. There's a bunch of other connections with books of the Bible. Daniel is close there, but specifically Esther is kind of sandwiched into the time of Haggai, Zechariah, and Ezra chapter 7 to 10, and Nehemiah chapters 1 to 5 back in Israel. And we find very interestingly that we can find out what was happening back in the nation of Israel during this time. So if you read Ezra chapter 7 verse 1a, which is happening right after the book of Esther has happened, Ezra chapter 7 verse 1a says, "Now after these things, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia." So we read about Ahasuerus' son, Artaxerxes, happening during the book of Ezra here. And Ezra chapter 7 verse 6, "This Ezra came up from Babylon, and he was a skilled scribe in the law of Moses, which the Lord God of Israel had given. The king granted him all his requests, according to the hand of the Lord his God upon him." So the king of Persia actually granted the request of the people of Israel to go back and reestablish the city of Jerusalem. And then we also read in Nehemiah chapter 3 verse 10, "Next to them, Jedaiah, the son of Harumaph, made repairs in front of his house, and next to him Hattush, the son of Hashabniah, made repairs." And you wonder why I picked that verse specifically, but it's interesting that we know what was happening back in the kingdom of Israel, partly from these passages like Nehemiah, and if you read that whole passage around verse 3:10 in Nehemiah, you find that the people of Israel are focusing on building the wall. The whole city's been broken down. It gives context to the story of Esther, knowing that the people of Israel were without a country. They had no wall, they had no protection. They were foreigners in this strange land of Persia. They had no power. And the whole story of Esther, you have to remember that the people of Israel didn't have strength. They didn't have control. And so when we read about Esther and about how the king calls all the women so he could choose them to be a wife, and when we read about those things, we find that these same people afterwards are having to rebuild a city, and they're able to do so by humbly coming before God and diligently working, each on their section of the wall in front of their house, with a sword in one hand and building up the wall with the other. The purpose of the book of Esther is clearly stated actually in Esther chapter 9 verse 26 to 28. The purpose is to remember this story. Anyways, I got to go in here and do some business, and then I will return to make the rest of the video. We'll go to Esther chapter 9 verse 26 and 28 right away.